Welcome to the thrilling world of Security Squawk, where we explore cybersecurity. Guiding you through online threats, we'll aid you in understanding safety protocols and trends. Meet our gurus, Brian from Exact IT, Reginald from Arc Solvers, and Randy from Tech Rescue. Together, we'll delve into current events and hot cybersecurity topics, helping you comprehend their impact. Stay informed, stay secure. Security Squawk, the business of cybersecurity. Buckle up, let's dive in.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Security Squawk Podcast, the podcast that gives you the real story behind cybersecurity headlines that impact your business and you personally. I'm Brian Horning, and today we've got another packed show that proves no matter how big or small, every organization is vulnerable, and sometimes in shockingly simple ways. With me today, we have an empty box because Andre and Randy are somewhere in an undisclosed location, hanging out.
He decided to jump into my box.
There we go. So could be in South Texas. They could be somewhere else. So, but Andre today is bringing a topic to the table, kicking us off with a massive breach from a co-op. We talk about co-ops a lot. Big part of the supply chain. So whenever you hear us using the word co-op, it's kind of synonymous with supply chain issues and attacks. And 65 million members, every single one had their data stolen. So Andre's going to let us know what happened and the impact of that. Randy is going to take us through how the infamous Scattered Spider Group is tricking their way into major companies like Clorox and their IT provider, Cognizant. So if you thought social engineering calls were old news or a thing of the past, or we were kind of getting ahead of those, think again. Randy's going to let you know how simple it is sometimes to break it into big companies that say they do cybersecurity really well. And I'm going to wrap up the show today with a local school. As I mentioned last week on the show, it's only a matter of time before we started to see the school attacks roll in. And the first one up on the docket is Arkansas-based Fort Smith Public School District. They just got hit, shutting down systems and causing chaos as they prepare to open up the doors for the school year. So let's dive in and get into the show. So, guys, welcome. How are you? How was your trip? Safe travels?
Yeah, great.
Yeah, it's great to see Randy. Next time, hopefully in Boca, we can see you too, Brian.
Maybe how about we just plan a trip to Miami for all of us and we'll just call it a day.
Yeah, that'd be phenomenal.
Yeah, especially in the winter. You guys
or
start on
Security
Tuesday.
Squawk cruise. Security Squawk cruise to the Bahamas.
Yeah, there you go.
So, Andre, just remember to lean into that computer there. You're a little low. So, Andre, you're up first, and we're going to get into this co-op situation you brought to the table. And it seems no one's learned anything from previous breaches, as we've seen before with co-ops. And this is one of the UK's largest retailers, admitting that all 6.5 million of their members had their personal data stolen. This wasn't some obscure attack. This was every single member's data. It raises huge questions about their security posture, how long attackers were actually in their system, and what this means for customer trust moving forward. Andre, break down this mess for us.
Yeah, so the reason why I chose this article is because this is something that I get all the time from our clients when they're looking at the prices that we're looking to provide our cybersecurity services, and they're like, well, if I get your services, do I still need the cyber insurance because you're protecting me, right? And I always let our clients know there's nobody that can guarantee that you're not going to get hacked. As we talk about each time in our show, we can do everything right, but then that end user, that employee, could do one thing wrong, and that's it. Because the bad guys are always ahead of the good guys. So here we see, specifically with co-op, they have admitted that they did not have cyber insurance. And rather than pay a policy to have insurance, they felt that, oh, well, we'll just make sure that, we supply our systems with the best tools and the best protections, and nothing will happen to us. And this is a perfect example of why you need to have a layered approach. Yes, you need to have your protections, but your IT director, your MSP will not be able to guarantee. And this insurance is definitely important, that they are now going to be that next step where they're going to help you with coverage. They're going to help you with writing out a check for reimbursements, and et cetera. So this is a perfect example of why you can't just choose one over the other. You need both.
Nice. Randy, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, we always make, so I'm in Texas. Well, that's where I'm normally based. I'm not saying if we are or not right now. But anyway, so I'm here in Texas. We always say that a cyber event is a matter of, not if, but when. And we make the correlation. If you live down on the coast and you have a house, you're going to get hit by a hurricane. It's not a matter of if it's a matter of when. So you want to be prepared for that hurricane, right? So the difference here, I don't know if it is really actually different, but you don't in the event of a cybersecurity event, you don't want to say, well, I've done everything I can to prepare for it, and therefore I don't need insurance. Down on the coast here, pretty much every piece of property down there is going to have some kind of hurricane insurance when there's a structure built on it. And so anyway, I'm just saying, like, no company should ever take that attitude like, oh, we're going to build a good enough defense that we never need cybersecurity. It's just not good.
Yeah, and this is not a 10-person office where the business owner is just like, all right, look, I really just only can afford one or the other. We're talking about a company that had a $58 million net profit last year. So even if it was $5 million for the policy, whatever it was, but it's not that they didn't have the money.
No, thanks, Andre. When a company says we take data privacy seriously right after leaking 6.5 million records, it starts to sound like thoughts and prayers of cybersecurity. At some point, protecting your customers' data has to be more than just a checkbox or just a nice thing to say after an unfortunate event. And the co-op just gave us a master class in what not to do, guys. So
I think they're trying to say now we take data security important.
Well,
yeah, right.
Yeah, and when you bring cybersecurity insurance into the mix, depending on your policy, depending on the company you go with, depending on how big your company is, but highly likely they're going to make you do some kind of evaluation. And I wonder even if bringing in that evaluation would have helped them in this issue.
Yeah.
So, fun times.
Everybody always spends what they have to spend once the event happens, and we see that in story after story now. Where as I was doing research for the show today, guys, I came across one of the small towns that I talked about last week getting hit, and they were, that town was basically saying, "Oh, we're going to now spend all this millions of dollars on a new system, so we're more secure than we were." Right? So, you run too close to the sun with this stuff, and sometimes you're going to get your face burnt, and that's how it goes. So. All right, cool. Next up, Randy, got a wild one here. The hacking group Scattered Spider is back in the headlines for breaching giants like Clorox and Cognizant. They kind of two birds with one stone here. The proverbial hit when you get the IT company and then hit their client. And get this, they did it all using an old school social engineering phone call. Yep, in 2025, major corporations are still getting tricked into giving up sensitive data over the phone. These attackers didn't just rely on high-tech malware and zero-day exploits. They simply just called up and asked nicely. And believe it or not, Randy's going to fill us in and let us know what happened from there. But it's unbelievable that businesses can do this, and there's a lot to learn here. So let's get into it, Randy.
Yeah, so this actually goes back quite some time, many months, where Scattered Spider, basically they called the help desk, which was run by Cognizant. They called the help desk posing as employees. No identity verification was performed. And they did things like passwords, MFA resets, SMS numbers, and they were just given out. And so then they had supposedly features in place. They had a way that you could actually verify who you are internally, called My ID. Apparently that wasn't used. And then also, even though it was said supposedly, and all this is supposedly, and this is the stuff that's come out recently, supposedly they had procedures in place to make sure, like when someone called the help desk, make sure that their verifications, they did the verifications, did what they were supposed to, and all that jazz, but they weren't. So saying that they did supposedly, or in a policy that they were supposed to do it supposedly, but apparently they weren't. And so then they were basically able to the bad guys were able to get what they needed and get in there, and it ended up leading to a breach that cost close to $49 million in recovery costs. And it looks like they lost about $380 million overall. So it was according to the claim. So it was a pretty big deal. What happened here? Now, Cognizant is denying that they had any liability, and this is where it gets really interesting for me. So they're denying that they had liability. They said they were only responsible for help desk, not for cybersecurity services. And they insist that they acted reasonably, which it's really going to boil down to that. If a jury will see, yeah, Cognizant, acted reasonably, then they will not, they'll prevail and they won't lose this lawsuit. But the reason this is interesting to me is because we already know, the three of us know, and other people that are in our industry as well, if you don't spell out in a contract specifically the service you're doing, if you're doing help desk, you have a contract that says we're doing help desk, we're not doing anything else. And then that covers your butt. Apparently they didn't have that in this case. We don't really know yet, but apparently they didn't have that in this case. So the implications here are going to be huge. And there's a big possibility that if the jury in my opinion, not a lawyer, but if the jury finds that Cognizant was acting in a libelous way where they can, they're going to be fined or whatever, they're probably going to be made an example of. And it's going to probably be a really bad one if it's, in my opinion, because they're going to say that the industry needs that signal of somebody really paying the price for just giving out the password and resetting MFA for any old bloke that calls in on the phone.
What I don't get though is, okay, even if they weren't contracted to do cybersecurity, but if you're the one that your employees, Cognizant, wasn't following the directions of verifying who's calling, then that's gross negligence. If you weren't, using like, okay, Pam, you're, Pam, John, or whatever your name is, let me verify you work for Clorox before I reset the password and go through all of this. And the second point I want to make is, who in the company did they get the password for that they were then able to then cause all of this damage? Was this like a super admin user that they then went to, like, okay, we got, the IT administrator, like, so I'm just curious as well as of how that happened.
Well, it's not gross negligence if they actually had a policy and a tool in place and the employee just blew through it. It's grossly negligent on the employee's part, but not the company's part. So,
and when you say company, which company?
Cognizant.
Okay.
Cognizant obviously had some kind of thing in place to prevent this, and the employee decided to blow through that process, which could happen in my company, your company, or Randy's company. I mean, so why that employee chose to go that route is unbeknownst to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you also have to look at it from a company perspective that they were able to blow through that. Like, I guess from a company standpoint, Cognizant needs to put up better technical controls so their employees cannot do something like that, right?
Yeah.
You can't, a lot of this stuff with cybersecurity and compliance comes down to one or two ways to kind of deal with it. It's either a technical control or you're controlling it through policy. When you control it through policy, you're essentially hoping that the human beings in your organization follow that policy and do the right thing. If you really want to make sure people can't do stuff, you put technical controls in place. So when they try to do something, the computer says, no way, no how, I'm not letting you do that.
You must have a code or something like that to be
Yeah.
able to move forward.
Yeah. Or you're just not allowed to do it. I mean,
You
we
can
don't
also
let people install software on their computers, and they get all upset about that. Well, there's a reason for that, right? And you're not going to be, if you try to install software on one of our managed computers, you're going to have a real bad day, hard time trying to get that done. And you're going to spend a lot of time, banging your head against the wall. It's never going to happen.
Yeah, you can also bring training into the mix. We had 1 year, I think it was 2023. I don't know if it was Scattered Spider or whatever. We had 3 different C-level people try to download something like AnyDesk or something like that, and it got blocked. And so of course we reached out to them like, what in the crap are you doing? One person got angry, but then they learned after, because all 3 were scams. They were those like the payback scammer on YouTube. They were those kind of scams. But you're right, having things in place that are machine controlled so a human can't mess up, and then having training for those times when it can't cover exactly, which might not be in this case. We did do a little research though. I did just a second ago, and we already knew this, but did verify that yes, they got the admin level passwords, and that's what helped the bad guys move laterally. Basically with impunity. Yeah. Do whatever the crap they wanted to do because they had the admin passwords to things. So,
all right.
I don't know, man. It's looking bad for Cognizant. I
appreciate you bringing this to the story, because what gets me is these attackers didn't need, as we mentioned, malware, exploits, or some cutting edge 0-day. They literally just pick up the phone and weaponize someone's confidence. And
exactly.
To me, it's like Ocean's 11, but with less effort and a bigger payday. I mean, if your company still thinks social engineering training is optional, this should be your wake-up call that you need to keep your people up to speed. Once a year ain't enough, folks. Like, this stuff changes too much on a month-to-month, quarter-to-quarter basis, where if you're not keeping your employees up to date on this stuff, more than likely they're going to fall victim to something similar. And this is an IT company. Clorox did not fall victim here, folks. This was an IT company. You would think that these people would be on the up and up when it comes to this stuff.
Yep.
So, all right, guys, moving right along here. So, last topic of the day, and as I mentioned last week, we were going to start to see this happening, and sure enough, we see it happening. As we have our first, of the 2025-26 school year, Fort Smith School District has been hit with what we believe is a ransomware attack. This is a local district in Arkansas, and they have been dealing with this nasty cyber attack, which has been reported to have disrupted classes and administrative systems. So, as we know on this show, we've talked about it at length, schools are becoming a bigger and bigger target. The attackers know there's a lot at stake. They know that they have tons of student records with all kinds of juicy information in there they can, do other criminal activity with. They also have employees, staff data that also contains juicy information that they can do all kinds of things with. And the disruption factor that can bring down a whole district to its knees right before school's about to start. And we're going to see this repeat itself over the coming weeks and months. Multiple schools on a weekly basis will be announced, will be revealed on dark web leak sites from now until the second week of September. right? It's going to start with the districts in the South. It's going to work its way up north because the schools in the South start before the schools up north, and it's going to play out that way. And if you don't think the cyber criminals that target these types of businesses know that the schools open like that, I can guarantee you they know this information. They know their customer. They know their target audience very well because that's how they get paid. Right, guys? Yep. I mean, they use all these little bits of information that they can use. They know, like, hey, your school's getting ready to open and you want those doors open come your starting date, which is probably in like 5 or 6 days, right? So
August 13.
That is, you know, it should be interesting. This site we were talking about earlier in the week, maybe we could find a negotiation chat from a school that allows you to kind of see that insight. But this incident definitely shows how vulnerable the education system is, even more so with, you know, proposed cuts and things like that. There's a lot of unknowns going into this school year for these districts. And, you know, the smaller the community, the more vulnerable you probably are right now. So think about it from that aspect. You know, school districts like this in remote areas, smaller school districts like, you know, in my area, which is a very populated area, we have little pockets of small school districts that only, you know, only have like a few hundred students and things like that. Very vulnerable because you don't have the resources of, say, a very large school district with thousands and thousands of students. You know, more money gets funneled from the federal and state and local governments to those bigger districts than these smaller ones. And, you know, they know this. These hackers know this. They know you're working with less resources, but at the end of the day, it still causes the same pain and same problem for that community.
Yep. And so reading the article, you know, of course, somebody from the district says, oh, don't worry, we don't anticipate any issues. Everything is going to be back up and running. And then in about 6 months from now, we're going to hear, probably like right before Christmas, during the holidays or something like that, we're going to hear that all of the students, you know, information are out there. And, you know, here's 1 year of credit report and, you know, sorry about that.
Yep.
Yeah, so I mean, we see it all the time, and that what Andre just kind of spelled out to you is indicative of an organization that just has no clue. I mean, this is indicative of their incident response plan, that they've never actually tested it or gone through like an incident response scenario. When you start to see companies and organizations say like, oh, it's no big deal, we'll be back up and running in no time, they really are probably speaking out of school. I mean, 99.9 times out of 100, when we hear something like that, they are speaking out of school. They don't actually have like some, you know, cyber resilient system in place where they're going to get back up and running, right? There are like less than 1% of the entire world's companies out there have something that resilient in place right now. So
that's code for we're screwed.
Yeah. Like we're screwed. We don't know we're screwed. Like we just don't know what we're up against right now, but we're going to say something to make everybody feel good because we don't want people calling our office all day long, yelling at us while we're trying to deal with hackers. So Maggie in the comment section said, this is news to me. What happened? I think she's talking about this article. Honestly, cyber attacks to our public schools is low. I feel bad for whoever the district IT guy is. Could be you, Mogi. Who knows? You could be the district IT guy, or you could be, you know, look, honestly, cyber attacks towards anything is a low. And, you know, I think cyber attacks towards hospitals and things like that is even lower than schools at the end of the day. But
I don't know about that, though. I mean, public schools is low. We're talking about that almost, you know, twice a month. We're talking about that.
I mean, it's low in this sense of like, it's not like this is a for-profit company that's out there making billions of dollars, right? Most of these are running nonprofit. They spend their budget and they're collecting tax revenue from, you know, hardworking Americans to fund their operation. And these guys are coming in and stealing that money. So at the end of the day, it's taking away from our kids' education, and it's making it, more of a pain in the ass for Americans to get the things that we expect done by our government and by our tax dollars. That's all going to waste right now because of this. So appreciate the comments, Mogi. But the district IT guy and team is probably not having. I feel bad more so for the superintendent and everyone else that's going to have to deal with this, like the school board and stuff. I feel bad for those people. District IT guy should be okay as long as he was doing what he was supposed to do with the resources he was given. And he won't have to deal with this. They'll kick in their insurance and bring in the insurance forensic people, and they'll deal with all that. Fort Smith is going to end up probably hiring a few more IT guys and spending more on cybersecurity as a result. So
this guy is, but someone, you don't think someone's got to take the blame?
It usually, I don't know. We'll see what happens. I mean, it depends. If if the guy was figured out that he wasn't doing what he was supposed to be doing, and
Right.
But if he wasn't given a budget to do this, but they're calling the guy saying, "Hey, get us back up and running," and we'll see how long that goes. That can go a lot of different ways. Hopefully, they handle that right. So,
well, and this is not a tiny school district either. We're talking 14,000 students.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Fort Smith is one of the larger cities in Arkansas. I don't think it's the biggest, but I know it's a decent sized city. So, they probably do have money somewhere that they maybe should have been spent on
School
this. We don't
starts
know.
in 2 weeks, guys, August 13th.
Yep.
Yeah,
It'd be crazy.
We'll keep everyone updated in the future show, but very interesting. And this won't be the last one we see here. And I'm sure I'll talk about one next week too. So,
and think about all the prep work that they're doing prior to school starting.
Yeah.
Now
they can't do.
Yeah.
Well, that's why they hit now, because it's like you can't do what you need to do to get this school open. So here we go.
And stuff. Yeah.
So
cool.
All right, guys. Appreciate it. Appreciate the comments here from Mogi. All right. That's a wrap, guys, for this week's episode. I want to get you guys back to what you're doing. It's more important than the Security Squawk podcast. Just to recap, Andre walked us through this co-op cyber breach out in the UK where 6.5 million customers had their data stolen. Literally everyone, as Andre said. Randy unpacked how Scattered Spider keeps scoring wins by picking up the phone and talking their way into Fortune 500 companies. Don't we wish we all had those skills? And I covered the Fort Smith School District ransomware attack, proving again that no institution is too big or too small or too local to get hit by ransomware groups. So if you enjoyed this episode, please remember to hit the subscribe button. If you're watching us on the YouTubes, you can like us or follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. So give us that like, share it with anyone who needs to hear these lessons. You can hit that share button, put it right in your feed, let your friends and family see this information. And if you have an extra second and you're listening to us on a podcast, please leave us a review wherever you're listening to us. It helps other people understand why this is a worthwhile podcast. Your feedback keeps us going, and it helps others find us. Until next time, stay alert, stay safe, and I can't say safe without saying safe. Stay safe, and keep your defenses up. Tongue twister today. So, what kind of attack was used, Moji wants to know. I think it was ransomware. And she must be from the area because she's I've been getting a lot of spam texts since the retail cyber text. Luke, there's Luke in the UK. So,
wow.
Yep. Go back and watch the stream, Mogi. We talked about it, but it was a ransomware attack on Fort Smith, or some more than likely a ransomware attack because of where we found the information. It was on a dark web leak site of a ransomware group, which usually means ransomware and not some other type of event. Funny thing is, that's where, remember when I did the Abilene story of Abilene, Texas, and some guy came at me hard about where am I getting my information and I'm irresponsible. Meanwhile, I had the information. I just couldn't release it. I couldn't say where I got it from because it's not public, and I'm not going to do that. And, but I was right. At the end of the day, Abilene had ransomware. And, you have to trust us when we're looking at the telemetry of what we're looking at to know we can connect the dots and say, that's ransomware or that's something else. That's not ransomware. We have the ability to do that. I mean, it just comes with years of experience and knowledge around this stuff. It's not some special gift that we have, and we're not guessing, right? It's like if you went to your doctor and you read him off a bunch of symptoms, he's probably going to have a pretty good idea of like what you're dealing with, and it's no different here. So we're looking at the symptoms of the patient, and we're saying, yep, that's definitely, strep throat or, bronchitis. Like that's all we're doing. And we don't need to have, somebody like in our office and doing an actual test. A test will confirm it, but we don't need that to necessarily say this is what you have. Right, guys? And that's kind of how I look at it. So, all right, good stuff. Get back to your show. See everyone next week.
Take care.
Share the